Yo, what's up, guys? It's Tello here, back to you with another video for today. I'm sorry I haven't been posting the past couple days. Your boy's been sick with an infection, taking antibiotics, so I've been a little bit, on the cloud nine, so to say. All right, settle down, editor, cut that out. You know what I'm talking about. But yes, I'm getting over it, and it feels good to make videos again. So I want to talk about a couple things for today, as in terms of what I want to see with changes for Ashes of Creation. And these are nothing like too critical. These are just things talking about how I feel like they can implement certain good things before, the next couple weeks or months to come before this phase ends, or at least consider these ideas so it can improve the quality of life within Ashes of Creation overall. Basically, the number one thing that I want to see change in Ashes of Creation is the player stalls. I think the player stalls are really a cool idea to make people make money, to dictate the value of items, and just have a new way of interacting with the community and knowing which storefronts you've seen before. Like, maybe you've seen a person's name. It's like, oh, I know that person. They always sell really good items, or I'm avoiding that person because they're overcharging, right? Or, wow, this person is always selling cheap items, which is like crazy. I could snipe that and reflip it. So that stuff is cool. Like the interaction with community, I dig that. But the two problems with the player stalls is this. Number one, I think is like the most common one, and we all know this already. I'm sure the team knows this too, is the filter. They have none. There is no filters, stash tab or whatever in these player stalls, and I desperately need, I think it needs this for sure. Because imagine playing, like, for example, like World of Warcraft, right? And let's say you're looking up like linen cloth or, something generic, and it didn't pop up. You have to look through every single page to find it. That would be exhausting. That would be, absolutely just like not fun game design, and you would just get annoyed with it, right? You would be like, all right, this is pointless. And this is like something I'm sure that they are working on, because, like, if you want to search a specific item, you shouldn't have to go through 199 pages just to find it. Like I did the other day. I was in New Ayla and I was looking for like an iron focus or something like that, because I'm making a cleric right now, so I'm, working on another character. And I was looking for just a focus for my character because I was like, all right, let me buy. I have the gold to spend, let me look for it. And I had to go through 199 pages just to find like an item, at least, bare minimum quality to be acceptable for that character, right? And I had to, at the end of the day, I couldn't even find the iron one. I had to go with like a brass focus or something of that nature. So I just ended up buying a cheaper one. But it took me like 190 plus pages to find it, right? Which was crazy. Now, that's just an example, right? So I do think, like, yes, a filters tab is much needed, and I can't wait to see that. And number two, I think they need to delete, like, storefronts that just put their stuff on there, haven't touched the game in weeks, and then don't even update their storefront. I think what needs to happen to like avoid all these like spam pages is that if there's no items on a person's storefront, their storefront needs to be deleted within like 48 hours. It has to get wiped, and if they have any items on there, it just gets sent back to their mailbox so they can re-put it up and go from there. Any investment with like the posting fee that that they put on the storefront, it just gets kept by the town, which is, it is what it is. You didn't update your storefront, so that's on the player's fault. But I really think it's important to clean up these pages, because it will make a big difference in, like, quality of life, the player economy and interaction with each individual stall and every node, and it will make it a more easier access on the player to have a good time with the game and just look up things quicker, more efficiently, and have none of these issues. Because don't get me wrong, I don't mind staying at player stalls for like half an hour and looking up cool stuff and trying to see what I can snipe, but I don't want to stay there forever when I rather just play the actual game. Go out, maybe farm some materials, maybe go do things with the guild, and go hit some mob farming, etc., or PvP. I'd rather do that stuff than just stand at the stall looking through each individual page. So I just think that's a word of advice more than anything, and I would love to see what they do with that in the future. So I think for number two, when I was talking about earlier how I had a cleric because I leveled up a fighter to level 25, and I was thinking about this because I was using my friend the other day as a mule, and I was like, dude, I'm gonna buy a whole bunch of gear. I'm gonna give you all this gear and some gold and change, whatever, and I need you to transfer it to my alt character and come all the way back to Lionhold. And I did that for his alt too. But when I thought about it, I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool if like Steven and the team like actually made shared player stash tabs? So like, if I have, an inventory space, or if I'm a citizen, a part of a, a node, and maybe if I'd done enough reputation for that node, it can be like become an unlockable thing that you purchase for like, 5, 10, 15 gold, whatever. And now for any alt that you make that is also a citizen of that node, you can have a shared player stash tab. I think that would be a cool idea, because this way you don't need to depend on another person to transfer all your materials, especially if it's a random person and you don't want to get scammed, right? You don't need to open up a storefront and then just buy it off of your own storefront, like, character swapping, unless that's what they plan to do. I guess that works. Like, technically you could do that. But I think this would be like a much safer and also fun way of going about it, because this would incentivize people leveling up through, their town that they're in. It gives them like the opportunity to mess around with the systems to like, contributing to the town, to the node. And then also it gives them an idea of how those, fundamentals work on how they have to contribute to the town if they were to unlock this like, new thing called like shared stash tabs through citizenship, right? And then you can unlock it for like 5, 10, 15 gold, like I said. I think that would be a unique thing to do, and it would be also a way to incentivize your player base who's playing, testing the game, and they're capped out at 25 right now, and they're just doing caravans. There's nothing really else much to do besides obviously the forge and gold farm and a bunch of other key spots like Karf and Steel Bloom, right? But I think it would incentivize players to try other classes as well, right? And not just solely focus one class. So I think it would be cool so that we can have a shared stash tab. I think that would be just an easier access of like just getting items and transferring things over. Another thing that I think would be cool too, to add on top of that, players shared stash tabs, would be a guild bank. And especially, I know all the time, even like in classic WoW, like that was a big conversation. It's like, man, I wish our guild had a guild bank, because usually you have to just depend on the guild leader, and then they just, stash all the items and they have it in their bank. But that causes a lot of storage issues, and I really think it would be awesome if there is some type of guild banks in the future, which I'm sure that's what they were discussing in the Discord. I've heard some small talk about what's going to happen with, guild banks coming in a further, update. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I can't wait to see them implement that, because I just think having easier access of going through, items and, how you operate those items with your guild, and how easy it is to acquire those items without having to go through any, hoops and hurdles, I think is the best way to create a sense of efficiency for your game and make players enjoy your game even further. So for number 3, I've already seen this issue being talked about with others in the community as well, talking about how PvP is very fun in the game, it's very enjoyable, and how it's only going to get better from here. But the two problems I see with PvP right now is currently, I guess we're going to talk about the first one now because I don't want to overwrite my ideas, is the rendering distance of how abilities and enemies pop up on the screen before you reach them. So, for example, if you go up to, like, let's say 2 or 3 enemies, actual players, but then by the time you get there, you already see there's 4 or 5 of them behind them. And this doesn't matter, even if you max out the rendering distance in your, settings to optimize it, it still is an issue on the game, and how they have to, further patch it and optimize the game so these issues don't continue to occur. Because you'll get close to somebody and you think there's nobody behind them, and then out of nowhere there's a mage or a ranger behind them, or a bard, and they're just nuking you down. And I think in a PBX style game where, PvP is very essential to, what this game is being built at its core, to then have these kind of problems eventually in the future is something that they have to keep working on and improving on, because nobody wants to have any unfair imbalance when it comes to PvP. Like, if you get smoked in PvP in a 1v1, it's understandable. If you get smoked in a 1v6 because you didn't see the other 5 people behind them by the time that you got there, and you thought it was just going to be just a fair one-on-one situation, that's not really, too entertaining for the player that wants to stay invested into PvP. So I do think they have to fix the rendering and how the optimization works from, how far you see something, the draw distance of abilities as well. So that's another subject to be discussed. But overall, though, there is improvements that need to be made on the optimization end, so we can keep improving PvP within Ashes of Creation. So as far as like the next topic I want to talk about right now, it's discussing class balance and how class interaction works currently in the game. Because at the current point right now, there is a massive difference between range DPS and melee DPS. Unlike in other games, right? Like in WoW, where you're pushing up as a melee DPS and a healer is backing you up. You have some type of pocket healer. You could try to withstand the damage. In this game, it's not like that whatsoever, because you'll have somebody, you know, pushing in on you, and it's a lot of range DPS, especially. That's most of the time that are pushing up on you. But let's say from a fighter's point of view, you'll try to push in on them. The minute you go in on them, you just get absolutely deleted. It doesn't matter if it's a bard, a cleric, a ranger, or a mage. You're just getting absolutely nuked, CC'd, chained down, boom, you're done. You just get totally eviscerated. And the only times you really do have a chance is either when you're pushing the pace and, you know, maybe you got a couple picks and then, you know, the fighter just fulfills his role to do some trips and stuns, or if they're pushing in on you and then you're trying to protect your back end, you know, like your healers, right? And then you're, you know, basically playing more of a defensive fighter more than anything, like covering your back army to like make sure they're protected. So the fighter does fulfill a certain role that I like, but at the same time, I'm just not used to the way that it's, you know, designed in Ashes in comparisons to, you know, playing in, you know, World of Warcraft, where, you know, I felt you could play a little bit more aggressive as a melee character. But I do think no matter what, besides the differences between, like, you know, WoW PvP and Ashes PvP, what I'm getting at is this. I still think there is a massive discrepancy of a difference, like a noticeable difference in terms of range DPS versus melee DPS. Like, I have friends that were just literally doing auto attacks that were doing more damage than majority of my entire kit. And this is not to call anyone out. I'm just saying, like I'm talking about bards, mages, you know, rangers, you know, even clerics, like, you know, with a big judgment crit or whatever. I'm just saying, it's absolutely a noticeable difference between range DPS and melee DPS, and the community knows this. Like, we know this already. So this is my big concern, which I'm basically leading up to at this point. What's going to happen when the rogue DPS comes out? Because I think the rogue DPS is, you know, going to be very interesting to see how it develops all the way up to 25, and how it's fully kitted out when you have, like, you know, really good stats and see its full entire rotation. But from what I heard and what I've been hearing from the other people, that they're saying that the rogue class is really utility style based, and for a melee DPS, I'm really curious to see how that's going to work, because, you know, as a fighter, like I said, I get nuked by a lot of range classes when it comes to, you know, massive scale fights. So for a rogue, I wonder how they're going to be operating. Like, are they going to just be like in the back, invis, CCing people, stunning people? Like, how are they going to play out? Because I'm really interested to see if they're going to be more of a class where they can, you know, actually do a lot of damage and feel like a really strong, viable melee DPS that doesn't feel like they're, you know, stuck or limited just by their movement alone. Or are they going to be, you know, a lackluster DPS, and it's just going to be in the position where the fighter is currently, where they're good, but they're just not amazing like these other classes. So I really hope that the game continues to, you know, grow, and we can, you know, figure the balances of scales, which I think, you know, they're doing a good job by, you know, making small changes to classes here and there. And there's a lot more stuff to come in the future in the long run. But I really hope that the game is not just always going to be centered one way and be like, okay, range DPS is the only DPS that's viable in the game, versus like melee DPS, where melee DPS is only good when somebody is like closing the distance on you to give you an opportunity to do something to begin with. Because I think the damage, you know, done is just outscaling the amount of healing that can be done on a target pushing forward, because there's just so much range damage, and so many people are playing range class in Ashes of Creation at the current time. Like, a lot of people are playing range classes, and it makes sense because it's one of the most dominant factors in PvP at the current moment. Besides tank is actually badass. Like, tank can, you know, fuck 100%. They are really good, but I'm just concerned more than anything for, you know, the future of the fighter, and then also how good the rogue is going to be and the future of the rogue going forward, and to see, like, you know, the data of, you know, range is still overbearingly better than, you know, melee DPS. But that's you know, a what if scenario. I'm just curious about it more than anything, and to see whatever changes come from that. But I want to leave it at that because I don't want to make this video too long. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm overcoming this stuff, and hopefully I get better. I do think the next video, though, it's not going to be an Ashes video. It depends, like, what topic comes at hand. But I really want to talk about Kingdom Come Deliverance. I know if you guys, you know, played the first one, it's a phenomenal game. I want to talk about, you know, the game overall, because I've been playing it a lot lately, and I want to talk about Kingdom Come Deliverance too, because I'm looking forward to that. And obviously there's issues on the web going on surrounding, you know, that game, but I want to talk about the game because I've just been having a blast with it. So overall, much love to you. Keep on keeping on, all that good stuff. I'll catch you on the next one, and as always, amigos, have a damn good one. Salute. I've been drinking cranberry juice too. Let me get a little sippage on aisle 3, good sir.
Mom, come get my sippy cup. Mwah.